quick explanation of what you are about to see. So we have this amazing Chrono Trigger tournament. We are going up to defeating Magus in Magus Castle. The reason we chose this category for the tournament is pretty simple. It is reasonably accessible for new players, but it still has the essence of like full game runs in it. So like going up to Magus will pretty much always be the same no matter what category you play, except for glitchless, of course. But you know, we don't talk about glitchless. Anyway, it is the most accessible thing. It is a roughly 2-hour run, which is very nice. A very nice, comfy thing that you can sit down to watch and enjoy. And it's also not too harsh on runners for a tournament race. So we're again in the winners bracket semi-finals. So whoever wins here gets to advance in the finals. So this match is very important for both runners, because should you drop down to the losers bracket, well, there is a lot of really good runners down there. So this is pretty much a match that determines the fate of both of these runners in the tournaments.
Yeah, with the skill level of everybody still competing in the tournament, even the slightest mistake can cost you the race. And once you're in the elimination bracket, that's, you know, again, that's all you got. You got one race to go. So, you know, like you said, this is a super important race for both these guys to just get themselves in that final slot and have a, you know, possible best 2 of 3, or even maybe just sweep to wrap up a tourney win.
Indeed. So the first thing, the intro of Chrono Trigger is relatively straightforward, but the first thing the runners do with almost all names on this round, not all of them, but the first 3 for the characters, is they shorten them to one character, or they are at least trying to. GD failed a little bit there, but yeah. Obviously, since text draws out, it is naturally faster to shorten names for most characters. There is exceptions, but we'll get to that when we come across that. For now, you just pretty much see pretty standard. Ooh, I say that, and then Lunchtime does the candy skip there. But yeah, pretty standard introduction here. Now, what Lunchtime did there, he did a very specific setup there to skip over the candy cutscene, and you might think, oh my god, that saves so much time! Holy! Like, you know, you don't have to wait for Marl, picking out the candy and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, once we get back from where we're going right now, we will still have to watch the candy cutscene, but it still saves a second. It's, I believe, 61 frames. I'm not sure, but it's...
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah. It definitely saves more time in New Game Plus than it saves in this run.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, even though, keep in mind, even though Lunchtime will now be about, I don't know, 20 seconds ahead roughly, the race is still even. There's nothing has happened that is, like, you know, responsible for this 20-second lead that is, or there is no lead, essentially.
Yeah, because once he returns from 600, he'll get that neat cutscene, quote unquote, to have to sit through. So, like you said, it saves about roughly 60 seconds or 61 frames, or however you want to slice it. But for the purposes of right now, it desyncs the race, but we'll get back into possible syncness once we get back from the first trip to 600.
Indeed.
And we'll have our first encounter skip coming up after the first battle with the blue imps, which is pretty simple battle, but allows us to get a good glimpse of the speed that these guys are going to be working at in terms of their battle menuing as well as their battle selection. Expect to see somebody's computer light on fire because of how quick these guys are going to be.
Indeed. So, a short explanation to what's about to happen for almost the whole run. We've just given, like, small introductions, you know, tiny little things. The big thing about Chrono Trigger is that it is very, very, very easy to manipulate everything in the game, with, again, a few exceptions. But once we come across those, we'll tell you about that. So what the runners did before the run started is they deleted all their save files, because the RNG starts, the game sets you on a certain RNG depending on when you start your game essentially, and when you load your game. And in order for that to be always the same, most runners decide to just, you know, delete their save files, so you just get the default RNG for free, essentially. And what you're going to see happen a lot is that we have scripts for every battle in the game. And the runners will try to follow those scripts. Most of them are relatively simple and easy to follow. Others are, well, not that easy to follow sometimes, but, you know, they shouldn't mess up. Just saying.
But given how intricate the run is when you're trying to stay on target with all the RNG, it's not very easy, but it's there's always that chance that you might. And as I'm saying that, Dee misses the bird skip, which is unfortunate, but not really that detrimental. He shouldn't have too much of an issue.
Yeah, there's a backup for that. You just have to do the grinding fights that we're doing in the forest slightly differently. It's really not, actually. It's more straightforward than what lunchtime will have to do. It's just a little bit slower. But yeah, how RNG advances in battle, you take an action, it advances RNG. You get hit, it advances RNG. Plus, if you get into an extra battle, it also advances RNG. So that's a very simple explanation for, you know, how you can see if somebody messes up. Usually, if you get into an extra encounter, you'll be in trouble. That's usually how you can determine that. But there's certain backups for certain things. Like DD missed, for instance, the bird skip. So he'll be able to perform a backup, though, because we do need to jump the RNG in this specific case anyways. So him advancing it a little bit doesn't matter for the outcome we want for the next part of the game. He'll just have to do things slightly differently, like I said. I am the commentator and the enemy. Yeah, that's true. That's usually how these things go.
It's better than runner and the enemy, because then you have to do the classic seppuku speedrun, which is
that's not
always dangerous.
That's not until Friday. Yeah, again, we're going to a couple cutscenes here. No big deal. For those who have just joined us, lunchtime looks to be about 20 seconds in the lead. Again, Deceptive Leap, he did perform a skip that will eventually save him a second, but for now, the race is still even. Don't panic. DD did not just like lose the race right here, right now.
Yeah, the beginning is a little easy to commentate in terms of there's not much to talk about. You know, once the bird skip happens, there's just this explanation of time travel, kind of, from Luca here, and how killing your grandma in the past kills you working, which is strange from a standpoint of this is probably the only time in the entire game where this grandfather paradox actually takes effect. As the rest of the time, the actual time travelers are not really affected by the shenanigans that they do throughout the storyline. But we'll be coming up, as Magus said, we'll be coming up on the 2 battles in Guardia Forest to get the Fire World Tech? Well, the Fire World Dual Tech, I should say. Which is extremely, extremely important against the Nagaet fight in the Cathedral coming up.
Indeed. So the big reason why, you know, we can't manipulate everything, so you would think, why don't you just like straight up go through the whole game? The problem with that is that not all enemies are vulnerable to physical attacks, and the Nagaets that are waiting for us in the Cathedral are an example for that. You can hit them physically, but you'll do like 10 damage per hit, and they have 60 HP. So the solution for us is to just quickly go into 2 fights here, which are also scripted, of course, because we want to maintain manipulation, and learn Fire World real quick.
And these fights are pretty simple. I mean, even off script, it's not the worst fights in the world.
Yeah.
You know, you're not really in danger of losing the run or dying or anything like that. You know, maybe a few seconds if you're off the RNG, but nothing too major.
So what Lunchtime had to do in the one battle that he just finished is he had to target the Rolly with Luca that was about to die, because when the Rolly dies, Luca has to retarget her action, which advances the RNG even further to where we want to have it. Whereas DD, who already got into an extra fight, can just hold X for the whole thing here. And he should be fine after that. So these Nagas are usually really, really annoying, because they will try to slow you. With manipulation, though, we can make sure that they all try to come at you, and we can take out three in the first turn here with Firewhirl, and then just get rid of the last one. Way easy.
Yeah, this fight casually takes forever.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, let's cast slow on Luca 4 times, so her speed is like -2.
Indeed. So Lunchtime is a pretty decent start to the run so far. DD, aside from the Miss Bird skip, it's been on point too, but the Cathedral will hold the first couple of glitches of the run that we're going to be able to see. And boy oh boy, did they come very quickly.
Yeah, they pile right on.
Yep. So aside from really good movement that you obviously have to have in a speedrun, we're going to see the 3 major glitches of this run that are going to make things way easy for us in this Cathedral. Alright, so Lunchtime is picking up a safety revive there. You don't have to pick that up, but obviously having a revive in case things go wrong isn't bad. And here's the first glitch that we're about to see. He's going to trigger a fade out to the next screen, and then by pressing the menu button and opening the menu and then closing it again, the fade out restarts, but you can keep moving through the room. And we are using that in that specific case, where he used it to pick up the power tap without the fanfare. If you draw the screen transitions that way, you don't get the fanfare. You have to do it in 2 fade-outs, actually, for it to be really faster. 3 fade-outs is about even to normally picking it up. So you have to be on point with that, but that's the first thing you can do with that fade-out glitch. That fade-out glitch has a lot more uses, though, and we're going to see one of them after Lunchtime gets through this Henge battle here.
And we'll get to see, this is a good point for checking whether or not you're on the RNG, as Frog will have crits on both the Diablos if you're actually on point. Otherwise, you'll have a little bit longer of a fight, but nothing major, nothing dangerous. But again, there's a lot of fights like this throughout the run where they're good double checks to make sure that the RNG is where you want it to be. Whether it be damage values or critical hits, there's a lot of good points that'll allow you to make sure that you know that you're where you need to be.
Alright, so Lunchtime is about to try to do the fade out glitch again, but this time there's a save point in the room, and if you know the game, you have to stand on the save point so you can save or access the save menu. What he's going to try to do is he's drawing the fade out onto the save point, so he will stand on the save point while he screen transitions, essentially. What that will do is what we call the save anywhere glitch, so the game will still think while you're in the next room that you are on the save point, so it allows you to literally access the save menu anywhere. And as you can imagine, if you can save anywhere, you can do some funky stuff. And one of these things is saving right here, reloading, and that will actually unparalyze you, or the paralysis trigger will never get activated for this or for this cutscene. And what you can do here is essentially, if you advance the text and let Yakra start transforming, you can go off screen or put Yakra off screen, and then you won't have to fight him, which is really, really nice.
And as we also saw, there's so much going on in this part of the game. Before the actual fade out was completed, Lunch was de-equipping Chrono and Luca and Chrono in the menu. This allows your characters that are de-equipped to have a boost in both magic attack as well as magic defense against 3 of the 4 elements in the game, fire being excluded, which is very important at the end of this run, but not super relevant the majority of the run in terms of the elemental fire itself, as none of the they have fire except for we also see DD pressing up against Yakra with Chrono's sprite. This actually speeds up the animation by a few frames. I don't know the exact number, but it's just every frame counts at this level of speedrunning that we're being witness to tonight.
All right, so yeah, those are the big 3: fade out, save anywhere, and the de-equip glitch. Those are the big 3 that they are going to be a recurring theme throughout the run. So if you have any questions about those glitches, feel free to ask, because they all happen in so quick succession that you can't really like. Usually this is the point in marathon runs or tournament races where the commentators are a bit stumped. But yeah, we got a little bit of time. Chrono Trigger fortunately gives us a little bit of a break here. Just gonna have to run back essentially and get back to our time to bring back Marl to her castle.
And this is where DD will get his chance to quote-unquote catch up, as Lunch will get stuck in the candy cutscene on his way back.
Indeed.
So we'll see once that ends. We'll get to see how far ahead Lunch is, if he is ahead at all.
Yeah, I think because of the missed bird skip, Lunch is going to be ahead by a couple seconds, but it's not going to be a lot. So what Lunch did there in Truce Canyon here, you might know if you played the game, if you come from the gates, there's different encounters in Truce Canyon than if you come from below. So what you can do here, save anywhere, the save anywhere glitch it retains until you enter a screen with another save point. So the game actually knows the coordinates for that save point, and it's not like, yeah, you are just on a save point. So we still have the save anywhere glitch right there. What we can do is we can save in Truce Canyon, and when we reload, it will think we came from the gate. We have to be a little bit careful with the save and reload here. If you do it in a slightly wrong position, you can soft lock. But yeah, I assume DD is fine. So both runners are through with the reverse bird skip, as we call it. And as Silent mentioned, we are now going to witness the candy cutscene on Lunch's stream here, real quick. Noteworthy still about the reloading here. I mentioned it at the start of the race, that depending on when you load your game, you're getting set on a certain RNG value. And reloading in Chrono Trigger is very important for the speedrun, because you obviously want to reload on RNG that is favorable for the next battles. So what the runners have to do, whenever they have to reload in certain instances, they have to reload in a very specific frame of time. So what they had to do here is they had to wait just a little bit in order to get the right RNG before they reloaded. You saw DD for the reload went up to his other save file and then down. So that's this little setup right there. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a few different ways you can go about counting the time. You know, we've got the metronome, there's the Ayla GIF, there's the Robo blinking eyes. You can just count, or as DD showed us with the, you know, if you're as seasoned a runner as he is at this run, you can time the menu movement to the exactness and
oh yeah,
where you need to be.
That's what the Stone Age people like me and DD used to do. Like we scroll through the menu. We ain't using no metronome, man.
What's a metronome?
Yeah, that's the new generation. They use these fancy tools.
Oh, I needed it for New Game Plus. Oof, man, that's a long one for that. I don't know how you'd be able to count that out without it.
Yeah, just see the frames exactly.
Become the frames.
Yeah, so DD's actually a bit further behind than I thought he would be. It's about 20 seconds, so that's a sizable lead for lunch here. But fortunately, while we can manipulate almost everything in this game, there's still a couple of things that are not quite manipulatable. In theory, they are, but you know, you have to you have to see the frame. And we're just in one instance right here where that's the case. Actually, the trial here is essentially a point that we cannot control. It is pretty much frame based, whether we get guilty or not guilty. So unless you actually see the frames, literally, you can't control it. What we are hoping for here is guilty, because guilty will save us a little bit of time in text boxes. It's about 6 seconds, I believe. If we get not guilty, there's a nice ether that the sympathizers give us, but we don't need an ether, so we don't really care about that. We'd rather save time in a speedrun.
Yeah, I don't think there's any point in the run if you're even if on a backup that you would actually need an ether.
You can use an ether one time for backup, but the thing is we're going to pick up one ether anyways, and it's for menu management, but yeah, we don't care. We don't really care.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, I think I've seen someone use it on the slime, a particularly awful slime fight, to just use an extra cyclone or two. But yeah,
yeah.
For the most part, you're just not. If you're using the ether, you're having a bad time.
Yeah, for sure. So lunchtime got guilty here, which saves him time. So DD will have a hard time catching up, especially because he got not guilty. Ew.
No one. Being a good boy is not good in this run.
And again, this is literally frame based, so you have no control over this. Whether you save the 6 seconds or not is not. You can't do anything about it. Nah, we're still rolling. We're still rolling. Don't worry. They're DDoSing each other.
Super secret tech from super secret Fred Slash. Coming up, we're gonna have our next little bit of RNG. Not as relevant as the not guilty / guilty RNG, but these guards that we'll have coming up after the first one, they move around, and if they get into an encounter, we're never looking to get into any encounters in this run unless we have to. So, you know, sometimes the guards will just stare at you lovingly for a long time, and you'll have to sit there and wait. Hopefully both runners will not have to deal with anything like that, but that is another point of RNG in the run that we don't really have any actual control over.
Indeed. So, whether the runners reloaded their game correctly or not, we will find out momentarily on Lunch's side here. So we have to fight this guard, and if we hit him with a Cyclone for 60, which is the max damage roll, funnily enough, then we know, alright, we're good. And that's the only damage roll that kills him too, which is very spicy, but you know. So Lunch is good. Gotta go through the shields here. Now we're going to use a fade out on this bridge here in order to despawn the guard encounter that we normally have on this bridge here. Even though it would theoretically be faster to fight them, it is just more beneficial for RNG to be set up in a nicer way if you skip this battle with fade outs. Coolio. Lunchtime is playing really well. Very good start here. So now the aforementioned RNG section is coming up here. These guards are the bane of every CT runner's existence. Alright, that was reasonable. Not that great, but reasonable.
Yeah, I thought for a second he was going to YOLO it, but he thought better. Ooh. Oh.
Alright. So, Lunch has a backup. Like, there is a backup to one additional encounter, but he's definitely losing time. That's for sure. He was pretty not enthusiastic about getting into that encounter. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure Lunch does know the backup. Alright, we're gonna fade out this guard battle here as well. Ooh, Lunch, please. The 5 fade outs? Dang, dude. This is DD's chance to catch up a little bit here. He definitely gets 3s on RNG, so he'll be set in his way. The reason this is even more important than most other things in the game with RNG is that you are trying to pull the RNG throughout the next 20 minutes. There's not a lot of fights in those 20 minutes, but you do save a considerable amount of time by just, you know, staying on the right RNG here. Let's hope Lunch can bring it back. So the main reason we want to have a specific RNG here is for Dragon Tank. In order to beat the head of the Dragon Tank up as fast as we can, we want to have crits on Chrono lined up, and they are lined up perfectly if you are using the load the runners did. So what Lunchtime will be doing here is a backup that is off RNG. What he's going to do is he's going to use Fire Whirl. Now, since we have Luca unequipped, the fire-based attacks are going to deal more damage because Silent said her magic is boosted by 20, essentially. So he waited for 2 heals from the head, and is now going to use the Fire Whirl, an attack from Chrono, and another Fire Whirl to kill the wheel and the middle part immediately. Now afterwards, he will have to heal whoever is lower in HP, and then just like hold X and pray that he gets like some good crit setups to get some damage here, and kill the head as fast as possible. On the flip side, DD is going for the head kill first, which is faster. And since we're on script, we're going to get just the right amount of crits we need to get rid of the head really quickly. So unfortunately this means, since this is not the backup that lets you stay on RNG, so this means Lunch will also not have the right RNG for the future. Quite literally for the future, but yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be important that he gets back on it for the upcoming fights in the future, as you said, because those fights can get pretty out of hand pretty quickly if you're not on point, because it's the part of the run where, because we skip so many bosses early on in the game, you really start to see the level discrepancy between like where you would be normally in a casual point of the run there versus where we are in an actual speed run.
Now look at this trace though. So Lunch being off RNG means, or having been off RNG for this fight means that they are essentially tied right now. I do like me some of that. Nobody's
spicy synchronization.
Yeah, nobody went for the Luca team up. If you go left and then right here and before the cutscene ends, just have to tap left really quickly. Luca will be way closer to the exit, and you'll notice it once the cutscene here is over. Luca will leave, and it will take a long time.
So yeah, she's always slow.
Truth right there. But yeah, essentially, we'll have a little bit of downtime now for 2-3 minutes. Runners are just going to have to mash through a couple cutscenes here. Very good race though so far. Both runners have had some trouble here and there, but they're still doing pretty solidly for the most part. The Jerry jog. Alright, fair enough. Didn't do the Jerry jog.
Patent pending.
That's so hard to say.
I'm excited to see if either one of our runners will attempt any silliness with Johnny and see if they go for a high score or if they just go for the normal boring race strats.
I think both runners are not feeling too comfortable now. I don't know if both are watching. I mean, they're allowed to, so they should know that they... If they do, then they should know that they are tied, but... We'll see.
Yeah, I haven't seen either one of them trolling in chat yet, so they might be lasered in this semi-final matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, the really hard part about running Chrono Trigger is that if you make a mistake, it's really, really impactful, not only for time, but you'll be a bit off your game. So since both runners have made a slight mistake here and there, I can't imagine both of them are feeling too great about how it's going so far. Even though they're still doing completely fine, of course, but yeah. It's a race after all, so... Okay. So lap 16 here. Ooh. So what we want to do here is, whenever you touch a rat, it steals a tonic or money from you. And that has quite interesting behavior, though. Whenever you have the stole text box up, you can't get into encounters, so what you can do is you can run into rats on purpose, and then just roll over all the encounter triggers without worrying about it. So ideally, we want to have 2 things stolen from us, and then we're going to have a good lap 16. Lunchtime had a very nice one. DD, unfortunately, had a bit of a struggle there getting the first rat to steal something from him, so he had to walk around. But, yeah.
Yeah, looked like the rat hit him a little early, actually, from what I saw.
Yeah,
he actually stole before he could get to the box.
The first box is especially hard on lap 16. The Berserker box and red there are pretty precise to get right, so there's no shame in missing that. Unfortunately, if you do miss it, it literally means that the rest of lap 16 is also not gonna look too nice for you. Alright. So I hope you guys like boss fights, because we sure don't.
Who needs boss fights? What is this, an RPG? Jeez. And I believe both runners switched their controls at the beginning, if I remember correctly, so we won't be seeing them going into the menu here at all.
DD,
for that part, at least.
DD is so old school that he doesn't switch his controls. In fact, he only switches them for this very specific thing here, and then switches them back.
I was gonna say, I thought I saw him doing it, but I must have just seen Lunch and going from that.
So the reason the runners switch controls for that room, that was the Guardian boss fight, Kappa. You can use the fade out glitch here in order to activate the battle, and then once you did that, the boss will just disappear because the game thinks, hey, you already fought the boss, you activated the battle, he must be dead. The tricky part about that room specifically is that the developers put in a little trap for you. So menu is by default on X in this game. And they thought it would be funny to put a random encounter into that room where the boss is whenever you press X. What they didn't expect, though, is that you can actually freely switch your controls, and most runners do that at the start of the game. So if you put menu on a different button, then you can still enter the menu in that room, which means, in return, you can also use the fade-out glitch there without a problem. Pretty nice movement there from Lunchtime. TD is not far behind there. Let's see how
he's nipping on his heels. This is still very much a race. There's still a lot left to go.
Yeah. And with the fade-out glitch, you can not only skip the bosses, you can also, sometimes anyways, go into cutscene triggers, and then whoop-de-doo, you skip half the cutscene. Also, the girls are in the terminal, so there's that. I guess that's an added bonus, but yeah. By fading out...
They're trying to fix the TV.
DD missed the fade out there. Yeah, he's definitely a bit shaky. They're going back and forth with the... But I understand, like, whenever you race this game, it's very different to actual speedruns. Because in actual speedruns, you can always reset. Like, in the back of your head, you're like, even if I make a mistake, I can always try again. In a race, you can't try again. So, that's a bit different than just doing a run.
And it compounded as well by, like we've been saying, this is the semifinals. Winning this race gets you into the finals, and like you know, you're so close, you could just taste it.
There's a lot at stake here too. That's correct.
Lunch getting a really good return room with the rats and the bugs there. Really smooth.
Let's see what DG does. He stops before the last one. Okay. It's been a good race so far. Again, for those joining us, this is the winner bracket semi-final. So, whoever wins here will be waiting in the winner bracket finals, while the loser has to go to the elimination bracket. And let me tell you, you don't want to be in that elimination bracket specifically. It's not a very nice one.
Very dangerous waters. There's a lot of talented people.
I can't wait to get down there. It's gonna be fun.
Exuding nothing but confidence as usual.
I'm not expecting to beat Red Slash. I'm gonna give him a fight, but I'm not expecting to win.
Well, he has to visit Fiona by default, so you have a little bit of an advantage there.
True. But what if I also visit Fiona? What then?
Ooh, Gentleman's Fiona. I like it.
Alrighty, so lunchtime still has slight lead here, about 15 seconds. However, he is off RNG, DD is still on RNG, so the next couple battles will be better for him. We are entering the Johnny race here, and the Johnny race is a very interesting thing. Well, aside from the fact that if you lose this race, you feel like the worst person on the planet, because you have to redo it entirely. This race is actually, you can't just like, I mean you can just stay behind Johnny and then at the finish line go ahead of him. It does save time to bonk ahead of him though. Oh no!
Oh wow.
I'm not taking responsibility for that, okay?
No,
okay?
Lunch was a little early on the last boost. You want to boost at the rest counter wants to be at 40 when you boost, and Lunch, he was at 50, so he timed it just a little early, maybe some nerves there. This is going to be DD's opportunity to take
Oh
my god. Wow.
Why?
Jeez.
Why? Oh no! Oh my god, I'm gonna hide now. I'm out.
The man is taking no prisoners today. That's absurd. I don't even think that there's been a race with a double Johnny victory so far in the tournament.
Oh my god, that was so close again!
Oh, wow, Lunch is...
Oh.
Lunch is trolling us with that one.
Alright. But before everybody says, oh my god, they are so bad, it's not as free as it looks, okay? So, like, the problem with Johnny is a dirty cheater. Johnny reads your inputs, so he knows where you're going ahead of time. So if you don't time it right, you might actually sometimes put yourself into a situation where you can't even win the race. Like, it depends, like if you're trying to go as fast as you can and then some things happen, sometimes you're going to be put into a situation where you just can't get ahead of him at the end. The runner should have obviously been a little bit more careful about those things, but at the same time, it happens. It happened to all of us before, so that is definitely a thing.
And we'll see here the first difference between DD being on RNG still and Lunch being off RNG is Marl is very mad, and she will assassinate these poor robots brutally with her crits on DD's side, and Lunch had to spend a little more time taking care of them, as Marl was less angry on her side, or on his side, I should say. I'm sorry, and it's not a huge time loss, but again, with the way the runners have been going here, every second counts.
I remember a 252 having a Johnny loss, so I don't know. The 258 definitely. The first top 3 had a Johnny loss as well. I remember that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want Chrono Berserked in the factory section. That's why we on Marl for this part of the race. Lunch is rickrolling the entire race community, and I appreciate it heavily. Lunch tends to do this stream. If anyone that follows him go and checks him out, he'll sometimes even play the video over this part of the scene. It's so good. But we'll have after the rickroll is completed, we'll have our runners head to the factory, and we'll get to head to our next RNG point, probably the most annoying RNG point in the Defeat Magus run for sure, as we'll get the 5 slime fight.
Oh shoot!
Oh, wow.
So these 4 buggers, they only activate when you dash through that specific part, and he started his dash too early. This is not gonna be nice. With that, DD will going to be taking a commanding lead here. I mean, the good news is Lunch was off RNG anyways. So maybe he's just setting up RNG, right?
Yep.
Correct.
All calculated. It's all part of the plan, people. Don't panic. This is fine.
Yep. So we're currently watching DD in the first battle here in the factory. The factory has some really annoying enemies, mainly the acid and alkalines. Those are the little slime things. The acids are the red ones, which have 10 HP, but they have super high defense. The benefit of being on RNG manipulation is that you can just get a crit at the start here with Robo, and he will just instantly kill the thing, which is really nice. But unfortunately, we're about to enter another frame-based battle. Well, it's the first frame-based battle, really. But another instance of the frames making it unable for us to manipulate the next part. He is going for it. He's going for it. All right.
Oh, I was curious to see if he was gonna do it with all the little hiccups he's had so far. But yeah, he went for it. DD has looked into manipulating this by waiting for the game clock to hit a certain point, and he'll wait. He's waited longer in other races to try and get the best outcome. That's a pretty solid setup there for him.
I'll take this bet on any day. Yeah. So the red ones have really, really high defense and 10 HP. The green ones, they also have reasonably high defense. However, they have not as much HP. They only have 9, and they also take a little bit more damage than the red ones. So that's a pretty good pattern. This pattern right here of the 5 slimes is frame-based. So as Silent said, DD checked his game clock to maybe... ideally we get just 5 greens here, and, you know, it's all done, a done deal, essentially. He was very close, though, and still got a very favorable pattern there. The problem with the green ones... The problem with the green ones is really that if you attack them and they don't die and they are close to a red one, they will do a combo counter attack, which we saw on DD's screen there once, but still, DD had a superb fight there. Yeah,
not only was the layout of the slimes really good, but they clustered together well. Getting like 4 in a cyclone twice is really rare. That's a pretty lucky to have that happen. So
definitely. So in the meantime,
lunch's pattern not as good. Getting an ideal like 2 greens on the edges and 3 reds in the middle is always tough to deal with, because as Magus was talking about, it's the counterattack when they're set up like that.
Yeah, he also has to open on the red slimes. It's really hard to not roll the 1. He does get decent damage rolls, so it's not too bad.
Luca with that crit kill, always helpful.
That could have been a lot worse, honestly. For 4 reds, that was pretty acceptable.
Yeah,
he still loses time over DD, but
that could have been way longer.
Oh yeah.
So he'll happily escape that room with minimal time loss.
That should give him a little push after the mistakes he made. Like, that's just kind of like a little gift. Even though you got bad RNG, it still went reasonable. So yeah, DD inquiring whether Johnny destroyed both of them. The answer, of course, yes.
The man takes no prisoners in this speedrun. So now we've got... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So we've got our 6 blue robo friends here coming up, and this fight used to be a lot more dangerous. I feel like when I first started getting into the community that this fight was like the bane of everyone's existence and was like a constant reset point. But now it's pretty simple as long as you just are quick with your cyclones. You want to cyclone the first 3 guys, cyclone the back 3 twice, and then cyclone the first 3. And pretty much the only thing you have to worry about is after you cyclone, I think it's the 2nd time, you want to make sure that they don't beat up too hard on either one of the 2, Luca and Chrono. Luca doesn't do anything really in this fight besides healing, so she's not really taken up by anything else. It doesn't really slow you down too badly if you have to heal. But ideally, they'll spread the damage out between the 2 of them, and you can just cyclone away to your heart's content and show these jerks beating up their brother what's what.
Indeed. So key is the first cyclone here. You want to get that one out before they act. Very important. Because that will set it up in a way where you can get the other cyclones that you need out in a timely manner. The big thing about this battle really is that because the 5 slime formation is frame-based, it's impossible to predict how this battle is going to turn out, like, RNG-wise. So, there is no real way to tell how the ATB is going to roll out for you unless you're very experienced and know a lot of patterns. Which made this fight very difficult for new runners to get, past, but most of the time, even if you do miss the first cyclone, you can work around it. You just have to heal a little bit more, but yeah.
You're pretty much trying to avoid the back row being alive long enough to do that extremely long, tedious, obnoxious attack where they toss you between 2 of them and then hit you into the other character. Because that takes such a long time and does a ton of damage to both characters. So really you want to make sure you're taking out that back row, but you're doing the cyclone first because, as Magus said, it's the best for the battle to get that first cyclone done as quickly as possible.
Ooh, still Lunch is not healing here. He wants that time save. Healing is just a safety measure, so if you get favorable, damage at the start, like, one of your characters is not getting hit 3 times, then yeah, you can just do 4 cyclones. Easy peasy.
Luckily, they attacked Chrono there, and he had taken less of the damage from the initial wave of attacks, so he gambled there, and it paid off, so he got the little time save from not having to use the mid-tonic.
Indeed. Alright, it's about a minute difference between the runners now. The biggest difference being Lunch getting into the 4-bugger fight, unfortunately. But this is still not a done deal. You see how quickly things can swing around in this run. And we got more than an hour to go. There's lots of game left.
And we still have the biggest run killer upcoming with the Masamune fight, as that has claimed quite a few forfeits so far in this race. So This game is far from over, for sure.
Indeed. I see people like when I say that.
And we've got our most complicated skip coming up very soon, but the Specchio skip is very, very important skip to have to make sure that you.
Yeah,
that's
a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably the hardest skip in any speedrun ever, easily. And if you're not familiar with the speedrun of this game, you might be wondering why Specchio is a frog. Normally in the casual run, when you encounter Specchio the first time, he's a little koala. But since we skipped 3 of the first 4 boss fights in the game, we're so underleveled that this is actually the first form of Specchio. That's how weak the characters are at this point. So that's why he's a little froggy guy.
Alright, so Specky is teaching us some magic here, and the most important skip is coming up on DD's site now. So Specky will ask you whether you want to test your magic or not, and you have to say no. The annoying part about this is, the text box where he asks you seems like a normal text box, so sometimes your brain is just like mash, 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 oh no, wait, I need to, and then you have to fight Specky, you can't run nothing. But yeah, as a seasoned runner, of course you're expecting it, and thus we'll get the Specchio skip.
Now we've got our... I think this is the first time that we get... Yes, it is actually the first time that we get the ability to use... it looks like DD is not gonna do Cake Dash, but I can still explain it. Normally here, if you want to skip this these discussion with the imp, you can hit the menu and switch characters, and this will allow you to regain control, and you can actually kind of slide Chrono out the door before the imp explains the history of Magus, the character, not the commentator. And you can actually save a few seconds there by just kind of sliding out the door with Chrono in a like weird crouched pump fist position.
Yeah, so you can see it on lunchtime screen now. He's going to switch characters, which is essentially the same effect as a save and reload. You will be unparalyzed, effectively, because your party switched. And DD did pick up the speed tab right here, which is effectively any percent strats. You have to pick up the speed tab eventually in a complete any percent run. And I think DD just does it in these races as well because he doesn't want to mess up his muscle memory. I think that's the very simple reason for that right there.
Makes sense. As you said, he is quite the old timer when it comes to the CT speedrun community. So
Did you just call him old? Unbelievable.
I mean, he does like the grandpa in Link to the Past, so...
Truth.
It seems fitting.
Alright, he used the fade out right there to skip a battle, and it's now hopefully, yep, skipping over this battle right there. And we're coming up to another boss skip that works pretty similarly to the Yakra skip we saw earlier. Just, it's a little bit more difficult. This is probably the most annoying of the boss skips that we have in the run, to be honest. It's really not the hardest, but it's definitely the most annoying one. So we're starting with a fade-out glitch onto the save point here, and ooh, there we go. You should have it first try here. So the Hecarim skip is a little bit more involved than what we saw earlier with Yakra. With Yakra, you could just wait, pull him off screen, it's all a done deal. With Hecarim, the battle trigger oscillates at the start here, so what you have to do is you can't just like dash and skip over it. You have to release B in order to get like a little bit less movement for just like a split second there, and then keep dashing in order to be just in the right position to be able to save and reload on the spot that lets you skip over it. And additionally, for Hecarim, in order to advance the story, he actually has to die. So what you have to do is you have to run into Hecarim to activate him, and then activate the battle after that so he blows up, and then you're good to go. If you just would run past Hecarim, you couldn't continue the story.
So now we have DD on his coming up to his second bird skip. This one, if I remember correctly, is the least important of the three in terms of how it affects the RNG if you actually end up missing it. But
Yep.
it could be.
Yeah, this one doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. First of all, we're going to probably see a little trick here called end of time save anywhere glitch. So we're already setting up here effectively for another boss skip. You see DD pause buffering here a little bit. He did get the wrong gate. Dang, DD. So what he's trying to do, he's preserving the text box of Gaspar by opening the menu at the right time there. And then dragging this text box, he can drag the gate activation over there. The tricky part here is that normally if you activate a gate, it paralyzes you. But by, you know, having specific movement at the start when you enter the end of time, and pressing A on the right frame here, we can stay unparalyzed, and or like you know, we're still able to open our menu. And if we switch party members after we get zipped, we can keep moving. So that way, we can actually move onto the save point and get the save anywhere glitch. And I believe both runners got it. I only saw lunchtime just now, but he has a different. Yeah, he must have gotten it. So the unfortunate part about that trick is whenever you get the prompt to use the gate, only 75% of the frames you press A on are good. So what you have to do, and what most runners do... Oh, lunch.
Oh, it looked like he did. Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like he didn't get it there. Yeah, I didn't... I couldn't tell at first, because I missed the edge at the end of it, but he didn't get Chrono unparalyzed from the menu switch. So.
So he got a bad frame. Okay.
Yeah, they zipped out together, so Chrono didn't get released, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate. That's about a 30-second time loss, and it's a bit more hurtful because he did try to use the end of time save anywhere, so that he has the attempt also. It's not, you have to factor that in on top of that. Unfortunately, no. Yep. But yeah, the text box for the gates was really 75% of the frames are good. So what most runners do is they pause buffer to see the letter that they are pressing, and then they will, you know, to see the letter they are on, and then they will unpause and press A at the same time to hit a specific letter they know is good for the setup. And now to reap our rewards for the save anywhere glitch, coming up here on the bridge, if you played the game, of course you know, is Zombor, and there is, of course, a way to skip over Zombor. Of course there is. It works similarly to Hecarim, where there's oscillating triggers here, and you have to release B for a certain amount of time in order to be able to save over those triggers that will hold you back. And DD doing a fantastic job there. After messing the first one up, he should be through here. You have to do it twice here, so... But, yeah. Relatively clean right there.
Yeah, the second one's a little bit tougher. You got to be like perfectly lined up with that guard. The first one, yeah, he went a little bit early on it, but he recovered nicely. Not losing too much time.
DD just disqualified himself by buying safety revives, by the way. Just saying, but
the way this race has been going, I really don't blame him.
The worst strat ever, man. Good menu though.
And then we get to see a little quirky part of the game here. When he reloads the save, he'll actually kind of reload on top of the mountain instead of below it where he saved, because the game for some reason just doesn't really care about the vertical positioning of the character. So it's just like, yeah, sure, you don't have to do the Tata whole cutscene. It's fine.
204. Now that's news to me. Oh, he already used the yeah, that's DD's little strat right there. He already used the tabs, obviously.
Yeah, he did it in the previous menuing.
Yeah, so again, the runners have to reload here on Denadoro Mountain because it saves a lot of time. Now, we want to be in a very specific RNG window, but fortunately this reload, you just have to mash as hard as you can, essentially. After that, because Chrono has the Berserker on, it obviously makes him uncontrollable. The Berserker is a really, really good accessory that increases your attack and defense by 150%. So it's awesome, especially since if you can manipulate fights with that. But because we have to get into one battle here, it's a bit difficult to set up the RNG properly. It's a bit more involved than usually because Chrono is going to get an attack off, and depending on what that damage roll is for that attack, you have to react in a different way, which is it's not too terribly difficult, really. It's just weird compared to everything else you do in the run, essentially.
Yeah, everything else is so scripted, and then like this part, it's like, whatever. Oh, okay.
Yeah. TD not getting fast bird. So, if you know the game, you know that Masamune is coming up here, and normally in casual, you're supposed to kind of figure out that, Masamune, when the big guy, when he, gets to a certain point in his script, he will charge up a big attack that usually kills you, and you're supposed to cancel that out with Slash. But it turns out that with just the right scripting, with the Berserker on Chrono, we will never actually get to see that attack, or not even the charge up for that attack, which is really, really nice. So what's going to be happening on DD's screen now is that hopefully, yeah, Chrono attacks the left side, and Chrono gets to get attacked in this battle eventually. Yeah, alright, DD is good, for sure. Get the crit from the robot.
Yep, looking great. Yeah, it's really important to be attacking this. If he spreads his attack out, it just takes so much longer. You want to be able to obviously focus on one of the two, because they do not have a shared HP pool. They have their own HP pool. And now we have the duo fusion part of the fight here coming up.
Oh no. That's a reset. No, he was too greedy.
Yeah, that's super rough because of how far back you have to go there with that skip, because you're right before the next save point.
I know why he did it, and I feel that, but man, that was way too greedy. Alright, so DD is in the Masamune fight here, and again, so Masamune actually works in a very simple script. He's going to attack, and then after a couple attacks, he's going to charge up his big attack, right? The fortunate part about his AI script is that once you deal enough damage, he's going to change to his second script, essentially. And whenever that happens, it's going to effectively start at a couple attacks again. So what you can do, if you script it just right, is you can do a little bit of damage, then push him over just before he charges up his attack, and we are going to use that new time we bought ourselves to essentially finish him off. Which is a very creative and very nice way of, abusing the script for this boss.
And as you said, it's extremely important because of the fact that we don't have the ability to cancel out his AoE attack, and with Robo being fully equipped at this point in the run, he will take like roughly 160 to 170 damage from the AoE attack that Masamune would do if he got it off, which would generally knock Robo out, which is not ideal, to say the least.
Definitely. There we go. Lunchtime did better this time. So Lunch is also entering the Masamune fight now. He definitely lost about 2 to 3 minutes from that, unfortunately, which doesn't mean it's over yet. DD, by the way, getting it done. But it's definitely a major setback for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, that fight is particularly frustrating if you get into that encounter, as it just is such a huge time loss, and you really can't afford to actually do the fight either, because you're losing basically the same amount of time doing the fight as you would just resetting and getting around it anyways.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, you know, either way, you're pretty much just getting ripped.
Definitely. This is like the one part in the run where it really hurts to have to reset.
But it looks like Lunch is right on point with the RNG, so he should have a easy peasy time here as well.
Yep.
As long as he stays on the script.
Yeah.
DD's
good.
I was gonna say DD's gonna ride the wind out of here and make his way down to Froglandia, and we'll get our first attempt at a new.
Oh yeah, there's been new science data on the news. I mean, DD is gonna do his equipping and shopping here real quick. We're going to try to unequip everybody at this point. The main reason for that, honestly, is not that everybody has the bonuses we've talked about at the start of the run, but more so that we can unequip characters that are coming up, really. I mean, it sort of matters for Robo and Chrono, I guess, but at the same time, we wouldn't really care about Robo that much being unequipped. It's more so a setup to get rid of most of the stuff we have in our inventory, just so we can do it later. And even though we can script everything, we still want a couple of consumable items like tonics or revives, seals, all that good stuff, because they will be useful in a couple battles.
Yeah, as you're saying, this is more really a setup for being able to unequip Ayla once we get to her as a...
Oh, there's a new...
Nice.
Kappa new. DT unfortunately didn't fight the new. I'm disappointed.
That would be an interesting decision to make.
Alright. So Lunch, in the meantime, still on Masamune. He's going to have about a 3-minute deficit coming out of here. He's at the end of the battle right now. But that's still doable. Like, it's not like a hopeless journey here for Lunchtime. DD does have to mess up though, unfortunately. That's the bad news. That's the bad news, but yeah, it's not impossible for him to catch up.
Yeah, there's not a lot of little chunks of time to make up from this point forward, as there, you know, really only being about 50 minutes-ish left of the run. You know, there would have to be a decent sized error on DD's side for Lunch to be able to get super close. But again, it's not like you said, it's not over. It's not over. Not even
it can happen. Just get into an extra battle in Magus Castle, falling down the pit in Magus Castle, boom, done. Done deal.
Magus Castle, you know, you could even be off RNG for Magus himself and get a couple of fire, you know, barriers, and that would be an easy. There's a lot of ways to get back into this for Lunch, so you know, there's no need to worry just yet.
I'd be a little bit worried, but you know, I wouldn't give up yet.
Now we're gonna go DD's side. We're gonna go kind of talk to Melchior. We'll give him a look, but we'll really just fade him out There's a little friendly hello. And goodbye. We're just fading out that entire conversation for time save purposes, of course. And now we're going to go back in and head to the very, very prehistoricness and meet everybody's favorite waifu. Everybody's favorite waifu.
Well, about that. How did DD get so far ahead? Essentially, it's a 3-minute deficit right now for Lunch. The thing is, Lunch made 2 really, really minor mistakes. Unfortunately, those cost those 3 minutes. He was too antsy twice, and that is pretty much all the time lost, unfortunately. Now, DD is in the Reptide battle here, and this one is kind of special. We are still easily able to manipulate it, but as you can see, the Reptides at the start ran around like crazy. And yeah, in order to get an optimal battle here for us, we close the second text box we get before the battle at a very specific time, so the Reptides actually moving away where we can slash and antipode and it will kill all of them. If you would close it at a different time, they might not be moving in a beneficial way for you. The reason for that is that after you close the text box, they have to get into position. And whenever you did that, they will look into different directions and stuff. So depending on where they look, their movement will be based on that. So it's kind of interesting. Kind of an interesting quirk that you usually don't see. Scala is not playable. Alright, so DD got through the fights very nicely here. No issue whatsoever. And we're meeting somebody. I don't know if you can call this a wife or not, but, you know.
You can if you have great taste. Otherwise, you know.
I see. Well then. I have bad tastes. That's fine. I can deal with that.
I mean, as long as we don't have Luca as a waifu, I mean, that's where I draw the line.
All right, that's fair. You know,
I can accept princess waifus. That's you know, Disney's got a lock on that, so I understand.
Truth. All right, so DD did switch the characters. We're just going to run away from the battle here. The reason he switched back to Robo is essentially that coming up we have the little you know, festival scene or, you know, banquet, whatever you want to call it. And having Robo instead of Marl in the party is going to speed it up quite significantly because Robo is just, you know, it's just way faster to talk with Robo there. Chrono, that's what I keep telling DD, but he doesn't listen. He doesn't listen, man. It's impossible.
I told you he's an old timer. He's set in his ways.
Absolutely impossible, man. And then he buys these revives before Denadoro, and I'm just kind of like, dude, you're losing so much time. And he's like, no, this is good. Anyways.
And see, here's another reason why Marl is not the best waifu, is because she wants to dance, and we don't have time for dancing. You know, this is a speed run, you know? So, I mean, like, we just gotta leave her behind. So, I'm just saying. Just throwing out the facts here.
Yeah. If you say so. Bring plenty soup. So a soup drinking contest, one of the hardest things in the game. You have to press A 6 times in order to put down the bowl and get a new one. And you have to do it faster than Ada. Which is not very difficult.
And you had practice with the soda guzzling game at the fair, so you should be...
that one's significantly harder.
Exactly, so you should be prepped and ready by the time you get here for blowing out your entire thumb trying to beat that soda guzzling game without turbo. Lunch looking right on script for the Reptite fights here. See if he chooses to do a second slash or a fire toss. It's pretty much relevant which one you pick, but I'm curious to see who picks which one.
Yeah, so Slash is a little bit faster. Flame Toss does the same thing for the RNG, so it doesn't matter that much. It's just slightly slower. Just press B, thank you.
You could see DD just wanting to switch Robo, and he's got quite the preference for Robo. He's always trying to get Robo into more and more of the game.
It's probably a randomizer reflex because you usually want to have Robo in a randomizer here, and DD and I, we do play a lot of rando, so I understand. Ooh,
DD,
lunchtime.
The DD successfully fading out Keynope. So that's always.
That's a nice name for Kino. I like it.
Patent pending.
Yeah, so Lunchtime unfortunately got into an extra encounter here because he got into the Lasher encounter early. So his RNG will be slightly off once again. I actually don't remember what impact that has on the RNG and whether you can get back or not. Because I haven't made this mistake in like a billion years. Pun intended, of course.
Terrible.
Alright, so DD got hit there by the enemy, which is actually part of the RNG manipulation. That's the way he can tell, you know, he's good. Okay.
Right, getting savage in chat.
Man, you guys, we should have, instead of a Defeat Magus tournament, we should have a soda can contest tournament. See who can get the fastest and best soda cans.
Oh, you don't want me in that. I'll win, guaranteed. I've got the secret tech.
Those are big words, my friend. Those are big words.
I will sign up day one for that tourney, guaranteed.
We'll have like a 512-man tournament, and it's just going to be a stream where people drink soda, like at the Millennial Fair.
We'll make it a 15-month tournament.
All right, so quick menu before the boss here. For those who are still interested in the speedrun, DD is equipping the Berserker on Ayla here and unequipping the Ruby Vest. Those has two reasons. One, the next boss is going to have a magical based attack, so we want a little bit of protection for Ayla there as well. Two, the Ruby Vest is an equipment piece that actually reduces damage from fire by 50%, which is very useful. It's not quite going to be used for that very purpose in this run. It still has very nice physical defense, and we want to take that specific armor to Magus Castle in order for Frog to have it there. Now, the upcoming boss here, Nizbel, is a relatively simple boss. The RNG manipulation is sort of interesting for him, because Nizbel works slightly differently than other bosses. You have to hit him with lightning first in order for him to actually take damage. Now, you don't just want to mash out that lightning at the start of the battle, because that will set it up in a way where you can get in less attacks. You do want to wait slightly at the start of the battle, delay your lightning until Luca's turn comes up, and then want to use that lightning. That will set it up in a way where you can get the maximum amount of damage out for the cycling.
Yeah, even if you have a hiccup in this fight, the amount of damage Nizbel does is laughable at best. So you're not really worried too much about losing the fight. It's just a matter of like doing it as fast as possible and getting all the, as we can see, just numerous monster Bela crits that just completely crush Nizbel.
The RNG is set up in a way where Ayla will crit a lot. Yeah, and the most important thing, really, like Silence said, you're not worried about not getting through this fight. You need to preserve the RNG for the next part. That's what you're worried about. So if something goes wrong, that's what that would sting.
Didi making quick work of the juiced up dino, and will subsequently say goodbye to Bela, as her role in this run is now over.
It does look like Lunch is still okay. That might also just be... I think the damage was fine. I'm not sure. He might just be okay on RNG. He might not get the crits in the order he needs to, though. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Yeah, so DD will make his way back. Just has to run away from an encounter, get the mass immune fixed at Melchior, and then bring it to Frog, which unfortunately is one of the biggest breaks in the run. Because the developers thought it was funny to have like 3 minutes of cutscenes back to back, but yeah, you know.
It's very important that we learn all about Glenn's, half marshmallow nature.
Twice. Back to back.
Twice as nice for half the price.
Indeed. So, while Lunchtime is entering the Nisbel fight, DD is going to get the mass immune restored. The interesting thing that we're going to see here, there's going to be another fade out for Melchior, but in a bit of a different manner this time. So the game in the data storage on default, if you talk to Melchior normal, either Luca or Robo, depending on who's in your party, will help Melchior. Now, if you do the fade out here, it will automatically default to Robo, which if you don't have Robo in your party, he will never show up in the basement, which you would think that might be a problem because nothing would happen, but it turns out nothing happens with Robo. But the cutscene just plays out just fine, so we're just saving a bunch of time by doing that.
Basically, we just learned Melchior is doing this by himself, and Robo and or Luca is not really helping at all.
We also didn't need the Dreamstone, so...
No. just a pointless trip to the past just to brutally murder some dinosaurs and make out with a princess from the past, I guess. And, again, you can run up against Melchior here when his head's bobbing and actually get a little bit of some frames saved, like I was saying before with the Yakra spinning. It's not a ton of time, but again, every frame counts in a run of this caliber.
You have to be careful though, because if you run into him when he's moving, you actually lose time. So you have to time it pretty well. I want to go back to Frog TV.
Just likes to hear the ding of the gates.
Yeah, Lunchtime definitely not on the right RNG. Got another cycle here, which will lose him a little bit of time. Plus, he will definitely have to do a reload before Magus Castle. DD getting the bird skip here, very important. He still is on RNG. If you don't get this bird skip, you would have to do a reload. But yeah, DD is still good, and he will be able to take this RNG to the end, hopefully. So difference right now is about 4 minutes, which again, this is not an impossible time difference to make up. It's just really, really tough, and DD has to mess up at this point. Like, there's no way around it.
Yeah, his Lunch just has to stay laser in and just kind of hope for the best on the other side of the screen. But there's no reason for him to want to get too dejected. There's still plenty of time left.
Yeah, so
still plenty of troll to be had in the castle.
Oh yeah, Magus Castle is probably the most difficult part of the run. There's a lot of minor time saves you can do, but if you miss them, you lose a lot of time. It's not so much the boss fights or the fights in general in there that are difficult. It's really the movement and the skips you can do. So we'll have to watch out for that. I of course hope that both runners will have a very good one, but we'll see. Things can change there quite quickly. Now, unfortunately, this is a aforementioned cutscene where, yeah, we will just find out about Glenn's past and what happened to him and why he became a frog in the first place. And this goes on for about 3 minutes. So if you want to get a coffee, if you want to get something to drink, maybe a snack, now would be the time. Use the bathroom, maybe. I don't know.
Write a book.
Write a book. That's also a good idea. This is actually not a bad cutscene for like speedrunning purposes. Like usually, this is about halfway through most runs except for 100%, which is a nice break, honestly. At the same time, though, unfortunately, you do have to sit there and mash through the text boxes. They didn't make this automatic, unfortunately. If it was, would be heaven. That would be amazing. But yeah, unfortunately.
I was gonna say, the other frustrating part about this is you get these two cutscenes, and then immediately after the Magus fight in any non-Magus tournament run, you'll get an actual input-free dream sequence where you can take another break, which seems, you know, like a little unfair to have all these breaks smushed all together and then have nothing else for the entirety of the run to have a break for.
Yep. Oh no, for the second cutscene that we're going to get, you have to put up your headphones to maximum volume, otherwise it's not fun.
Of course. You gotta feel the true we of the sword blast.
You know, while I did say, okay, it's boring cutscenes, these cutscenes are actually probably the best, one of the best in the game, so there's at least that. But if you have seen them 1,000 times, at some point it's just kind of like, yeah, we're here again.
Mm-hmm.
Hooray.
Of course. Especially during a tournament like this where we're watching, 2 to 3 races a week minimum, seeing these cutscenes like, 8 to 10 times. I'm a little more partial to the Black Omen appearing scene. I like that one a little bit better, but I also don't have the same love for Frog as most people do. So it's understandable that most people would enjoy the second of the 2 Frog cutscenes the most.
Which we're about to see on DD's end here. So yeah, turn up your headphones right now if you want to have some fun. I'm not gonna scream, don't worry. The game will do that for me.
Time to send out Frog's ad for mountain cleaving. If anybody needs mountain cleaving services, feel free to dial 1-800-FROG-CUT, and he will be able to cleave whatever mountains you need, whether it be horizontal, vertical, diagonal. Yeah, he can take care of all of your needs.
Yeah. While we get to see these amazing cutscenes, again, the next part here, Magus Castle, it's a little bit above everything else we've seen so far, execution-wise and also script-wise. The scripts are getting longer the further you go into the run, obviously. And Magus Castle is the first time where you have scripts that are really long, so it's going to be quite a challenge. The scripts are easy, but the hard part is after 1.5 hours to still focus enough that you maintain the scripts and all that. So we'll see. And the hardest part is, again, execution wise in the castle. There is a bunch of minor things you can do to save time here and there, do skips a little bit faster, get through rooms in one cycle, all that good stuff. There's a lot of things, and if you mess those up, you lose a lot of time. There's no need to go for them, so if DD watches and knows he's 4 minutes ahead, he doesn't need to do anything crazy, but, I would love to see it.
Sync hero medals here, always fun.
Alright, so now please turn up your headphones if you want to have some fun. I'll mute myself for this too. Alright, I'm not gonna speak very loudly, but yeah, that sound effect is a little bit louder than most things you have in the game. Alright.
Or any sound ever in the history of mankind.
I've heard worse in some games, but yeah.
Always important to be buffering down right immediately upon entering this area, or otherwise you will not be fast enough to skip the upcoming fight. And that's an extremely important skip to have. Because as Magus was explaining earlier, staying on the RNG here is very important. You don't want to have to reload if you don't have to.
Yep, the reload is simple enough, really, but it costs you a lot of time, obviously, to reload the game.
So we saw 2 news today. It's not bad.
That's not too bad, yeah.
Still think the record is 3 for one runner.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen 4 for a solo yet, but I'm hoping to get a 4 new final.
Man, that would be actually epic. 4 news in the finals, man.
Who needs 5 slime strats? I'm looking for 4 new strats.
Oh yeah, the news are also frame-based. Just who's curious? It's same as Silence, as same difference as the slime fight. Really, the formation for that. It's just not as important as the slime fight, obviously. I mean, it is. My bad. Sorry.
Depending on your priorities, it's not as important.
Yeah.
Time saves or swag.
Alright, so at the start of Magus Castle here, we just get to run around a little bit, have to run at the end of the corridors, but from this next fight onwards, we're going to have essentially non-stop action here. So DD is going to get into this fight with the 6 enemies, and what he wants to see is a Crimson Rain on Frog that deals 46 damage. Which he should, because his RNG so far, he's still on. If he sees that, he knows everything's in order. He's just going to use Rocket Roll and then move on from there. There we go. Get the Crimson Rain for 46. Use the Rocket Roll, and we're out of here.
Rocket Roll doing Mondo damage thanks to the unequip on Robo, as the Rocket Roll only takes into account Robo's magic, ignores Chrono's, obviously, since you're using a tech that is non-magical for Chrono.
Indeed. So we have to do a small menu here. We have to equip the Power Scarf on Chrono, the Berserker on Frog that we picked up in prehistory, and then we have to unequip Frog as well. Very important right there. But Frog will also receive the Ruby Vest. The thing is that unequipping, you have no armor on means you have no physical defense. And up to this point, it didn't really matter since we can script it out pretty well. This is the point in the game where the bosses start to hurt really badly, though, when they hit you physically. And that's why it's maybe even not a bad idea to have armor on some of your people, even for scripting out fights. So Frog having the Ruby Vest here is very beneficial for us.
And now we get our next input break with the flea battle coming up.
Yo, spoilers, man! Spoiling everything. Unbelievable.
That's what I'm here for. As the fight basically is with Frog on the Berserker, his attack just kind of messes with Flea, and he just finds it amusing. He just keeps laughing for like you know, a couple of minutes. The Frog just wailing away.
The way this works is, if you remember Masamune used to move towards you, and Masamune, let's say, you know, is moving depending on who's doing damage at what time. Like, he changes targets depending on, you know, how much damage he took and who's attacking at the current time and all that. So Masamune will, like, keep moving left and right at certain specific times if you hit him at the right time. And then just eventually, you know, hit a character. Flea works in kind of the same way, even though he's not moving. Like, you can't see he's moving, but it's essentially the same idea here, where Flea is about to make a move, but then changes targets and doesn't really get an attack out because, you know, the distance is too great. So this doesn't work indefinitely, by the way. It's just, like, set up in a way where, you know, we can get through the fight because of the RNG we're on.
Now this can get in an unscripted fight, just like, you know, some glitchless learners will, if they equip Frog with the Berserker, will even have this happen for a lesser extent, not as successful as you have it if you have the script, but it's a little quirk that was something that was found to be very useful for people who like to take a little break from playing the game while the game still plays itself, basically.
Yeah. Alright, so before we can fight the next mini-boss, I have this little descendant fight here, and it's actually kind of tricky on one hand on the to maintain RNG that is favorable for us. On the other hand, with the Berserker, you're pretty much set in your ways on what you have to watch out for anyways, and it turns out that after Flea, if you get 2 Frog attacks, it just sets it up nicely so you can slash the last 2 skeletons with Chrono either way. And then we'll set it up perfectly for the next battle here, which is the first endurance test. It's not a complex script that we're about to see here on Slash. It's really just a long battle. The problem with Slash is that Slash is relatively resistant to magical attacks, so the best bet you have is attacking physically. The problem is your physical damage output is not the greatest. Like, Frog is great with the Berserker and you know, his attacks on that, but other than that, you have really not much to show for yourself. So what you have to do is essentially make it so that you get the maximum amount of crits out of Frog in order to deal the most damage you possibly can. And unlike most bosses, Slash does have magic in the second phase, but he hurts physically, and he hurts very badly, so this is definitely the part of the run where you do not want to get off script, because, again, you're pretty damn unequipped right now. So, that would be a terrible idea.
Yeah, Slash does not enjoy your presence and will thoroughly make your day real bad with his counterattacks, as well as his just normal attacks in the second phase. It's rough all over, you know, but not recently, but quite some time ago, Slash would be one of the run killers for sure. Back when the older strats were used.
Oh yeah, there used to be. We have to heal here in the second phase. Obviously, we did get hit quite badly, so that's part of the script. It used to be that we had a almost frame perfect Metonic in this battle, which fortunately got abandoned for a better script, but yeah. I think it was a 4-frame window, if I remember correctly. Which, in this game, it might as well be frame perfect, because it's hard to anticipate that.
Yeah, especially with everything going on in this fight, and you're trying to keep track of, like, 3 different things at once. You don't want to miss that either, and it's pretty close to the end of the fight too, so it's not a. It wasn't an easily timable thing to discern. But Lunch was on script with his reload, so he's good to go with his flea fight. Just wrapping it up now, and DD getting to the tail end of the slash fight here.
Yep.
About to enter the counter phase.
Yeah, so Slash at the very end, if he is on low enough HP, will start counter-attacking with Yes Indeed! Which does a lot of damage. So what you want to do is deal just barely enough damage to not push him over with everybody, and then have Frog finish the job essentially at the end here. So he's gonna get out 2 more attacks with Chrono and Robo, and from here on out, Frog should finish the job with his 2 attacks. And this is another critical point where the Ruby Vest just comes into play. You see that did 77 damage. If you didn't have that on, it would be Good Night Frog. But just turns out that, yeah, you know, you can finish this battle very nicely right there. So, as much as you want to, like, you know, run through everything without healing and stuff, we are going to take the only, hopefully, shelter in this castle right here after we've done some re-equipping. We need the Magic Scarf from Chrono. We did get the Slasher, which is amazing because it gives us 2 speed for Chrono. And for the next part, as cool as Frog was with the Berserker, we don't really want him on that for random encounters right now. Well, yeah, I say random encounters, but like they are not random. They are just in the way, really.
Yeah, I don't think the 4 juggler fight would go very well.
That's pretty swaggy. Alright, so yeah, in this gauntlet right here, DD just has to run away from everything, essentially. The tricky part here is that if he's, for some reason, wouldn't run away quick enough, like if he would have the ATB slide too far, it can actually influence the RNG, so you don't want to slack on these runaways at all. Yeah, the Fiend Lord. Alright, lunchtime is in the endurance run here. Still phase 1. So there's not really anything that changed so far in Lunch's deficit. Unfortunately for him, of course. But yeah, DD is coming up to the most execution-heavy part of the castle. So right here we have the guillotine room. If you get hit, you take damage. We don't want to take damage because if you do not take damage in the rest of the castle, you don't have to use a shelter at the end.
Rip.
Well, so yeah, rip. That's the first minor time loss right there. That's just a minor time loss though. You just take a little bit of damage if you get hit by guillotine, so that's not too big a deal. Now here, this is a very simple room. You just have to run through. If you move while the rollies are on top of you, you will trigger a battle. DD, of course, expertly getting past that, running through the... Oh my god, no!
Oh. Yeah, just a little too early on that last right movement.
This is just what lunchtime needed. So falling down here will not only put DD in a spot where he's off RNG, aka he needs to reload before Magus, it also wastes a lot of time. Yeah, this might just be the comeback lunchtime needs.
Yeah, you don't have any good AoE attacks here. You don't have any good, like, you know, you can't really line up a bunch of them with Slash, so you just kind of have to attack them all single.
And, I mean, DD will still be considerably ahead, but right now, DD can't feel good about everything. Like, the reload is also relatively precise for Magus, so... And if he messes that up 1 time or 2 times, then, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
And we've got Lunch, getting to the final setup for the end of the Slash fight. Doing the last two attacks with Chrono and Robo.
Oh. So DD has to maintain focus. He has to stay on his game. Missing the ideal skip there, unfortunately, but didn't get into battle at least. That was very close to that. Can push the bird out of the way here with your secondary character. And move on. So he's going to be off RNG for the next part here, which, yeah, he'll just switch to Luca. I think he's a favorite of that anyways, or he favors that anyways. So there's going to be 3 battles here. You can run away from the second one, but you have to fight the first and third, and, well, we'll have to see how this works out for DD, honestly, because he doesn't know now. They're not difficult battles, but, you know, if you don't skip something...
You're not too worried. I mean, the groupies take pretty terrible damage from any magic attack, so they get dealt with pretty quickly. Ooh, a nice crit there. That hero metal crit rate being raised helps out a lot when you're off the RNG for these battles. But yeah, you're not really worried about losing to any of these fights. It's just more a matter of just being off the RNG, so you're going to be losing time.
Yep, indeed.
And since, like you said, you can only run away from one of these battles, you can't take advantage too much of that.
Yeah, and the worst one is the last one here, where we'll have to fight these 4 jugglers, and jugglers are very annoying things because they switch their defense from you know, physical defense unable to magical defense on, and so on and so forth. So you have to kind of juggle with them in order to beat them. Heh 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 heh.
Damn you. Luckily, though, with Luca unequipped, her fire magic attack OKOs these jugglers, so ooh, a little X-Strike action, always nice. So actually went pretty smoothly, all things considered, being off the RNG.
Yeah, very nice.
We got Lunch making it up the first of the 2 side of Magus Castle sections.
He's not that far behind anymore, though.
Nope.
Going through the trap room here. Getting through it first try. Even has a little team up there. Saving a little bit more, a couple more frames. Outer section. If he gets through this... Oh, no! Ooh. And there's an extra encounter. Oh, DD getting into another battle before... Oh, my lord. Gee.
Wow. Wow.
What's happening? Boys, please. This is one of the worst encounters too, right here on the outside. The bird in combination with the juggler, if you don't kill them in one go, they have a dual attack that they counter with, but yeah, Lunchtime knows how to react properly here. Unfortunately, this means Lunchtime will also be off RNG, so has to do a reload. So this could come down to the reload and the Magus fight actually here. DD still has a quite impactful lead right here, but he still can't mess up. If he messes up, then, well, things could get dicey.
Yeah, all it takes is a bad reload and a couple of fire barriers, and you're going to have a tough time, for sure, so...
147.35 for DD. Is that even the record? I don't know. I don't know what the record is for this category, to be honest. It's 147 something, but I don't know the exact number. DD accidentally stopped his timer. I think he's a little bit nervous, which at this point, I understand. I get that. I would be too. Yeah, so he has to shelter at the end here, and now for the reload, which... I honestly don't remember what he has to look for here for the reload, because I haven't done this one for over a year now. Oh, it's the oh boy.
Yeah, this one's like it's like 2.5, I think. If I remember correctly, it was like 2.2 to 2.5.
Is it the nasty one? Oh dear,
Yeah.
dear me.
Yeah, it's got. I remember there was a previous race where someone had like to do it like 3 times before they got it. I can't remember which race that was though.
Yeah. So the longer you have to wait for a reload, the more difficult the reload is. If you don't, especially if you don't use tools like a metronome, because it's obviously harder to gauge when the time has passed. The further you go, you have to go. And starting from 2-second reloads, it's really annoying. Like 2.2 to 2.5, you can tell you have to reload within a window of 0.3 seconds, which that's not very easy to do.
No, and as an NG plus runner who has to deal with a 4-second load for that, it's rough. It's rough to wait that long. It feels like an eternity when you're just sitting there staring at the screen like, can I just press A? No, okay. All right, that's a good start. We're looking for a double shadow, double lightning. So
yeah, I think the damage was good, so we're good. We should be fine. The one thing that's a problem here with the reload is that whenever you reload the game, while there is a window for the RNG, it is frame-based where your crit table is at. So his crits for this battle, because it's the first one after a reload, are probably off to compare to what is ideally scripted. So he will have to deal with that in some fashion or another. But I'm sure he will. He will do just fine. The big thing is that you get the right barriers here. So Magus has 2 phases, and he starts out with this really annoying phase where only the barrier he changes to can damage him, which we have scripted it out in a way where it's shadow, shadow, lightning, lightning. Because that's the most ideal setup you can get, really, for the parties we have access to. But, yeah.
Yeah, since taking Frog to get magic is a gigantic waste of time, and having Marl in the party instead of Robo is very less than ideal, since we barely use her in the run up until this point. It's just
she's also pretty weak.
You said it, not me. Just saying.
I mean, it is what it is.
DD accidentally stops his timer. It's not a. He is not done. There's not a finish. It's just a little accidental slip up.
Yeah. So timing for this category stops when Magus starts to kneel before you. So it's not when the battle ends, but when he kneels before you. So you can check. They are synced up, so lunchtime's timer is accurate if you want the time comparison. So yeah, DD got into phase 2 for the Magus battle, which essentially means he has to hold X or whatever. He's still trying to go off script. Looks like his crits might just line up.
Spicy.
But yeah, Magus in phase 2 essentially just charges up a dark matter attack, which we are going to see here, which with the unequipped glitch, that's really inconsequential. If you were not unequipped, then, well, you would take about 300 damage. Less than ideal, but, you know.
Considering no character at this point in the run has over 200 HP, that is slightly less than ideal for sure.
Yeah, lunchtime also got the reload first try, so very well done by both runners there. That's a very hard reload.
Yeah, both these guys are super familiar with most, if not all, the backups for not only this run, but the full runs that they do. Both of them are very well versed in the any percent and no LSS runs, for sure.
Alright, so DD is coming up to the end of the battle here. Ooh. He might just get another dark matter. Ooh. Okay, that's gonna kill Frog for sure. He's still fine, but this is definitely a time loss for him.
Triangle's doing work. In a normal run, this would be bad, but since we are ending the run as soon as Magus is defeated, you know, losing Frog here is not really that big of a deal. And there we go.
Yeah, TD is about done, and once Magus kneels, that's time. Boom, there it goes, and DD finishes in first place with a 154.29. GG. We'll see when. And I'm sure the players have a lot to say about the race whenever they join us. Ah, he's already here, my friend DD. GG to you, my friend.
Thank you, I guess.
GG's.
How do you feel about your run?
Not the best. I'm surprised I won. I guess we both made similar mistakes.
Yeah,
But
there was a lot of meminess going on on both sides of the screen. Both you guys lost to Johnny.
Oh yeah, that was good.
The big time loss for lunch was he ended up trying to do fast bird and got caught, got a little too greedy, so he had to reload. He also got into the bugger fight in the Protodome, and he lost a little bit of time there too. But definitely the big chunk that he lost was having to reload because of that fast bird.
Yeah, those are the two big ones really that made the big difference here. There's been minor mistakes on both sides, obviously, that lost time as well, but yeah, those are the two big ones that put lunch behind.
yeah, the reset to the Massive intersection is just so rough. Like you saw, I did the safety shop just because I refused to reset there.
I called you out on that, don't worry.
But yeah, it was very memey. It seemed like every time one of you guys made a slip up that would let the other person catch up, the other person would then make another mistake of their own to kind of just mitigate the mistake that the other person made. It was very, very strange, but nonetheless very entertaining.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Magus Castle, when you fell, Lunch was on good RNG until he ran into another encounter as well.
Pretty
so that
sure
might have.
I was still on good RNG even after falling.
Yeah, but that might have just bailed you out that he got into an extra battle there, because that lost him a lot of time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's just about there now.
He got a second Dark Matter just as you did. And he should be finishing up here very shortly. Here we go.
Second Dark Matter, I don't get, man. I don't get that.
Well, I mean, if you're
there.
GG Lunch, welcome.
Yeah, GG's to lunch.
Yeah, GG's, man.
Finishing up with a 157.02.
Woo,
That's
personal.
time.
I was gonna say personal best, but it isn't.
So, Lunch, how do you feel about the run, the race in general?
Oh man, I feel great. Best run of my life. No, I'm joking again. I had a really good start. It felt really great until I got bamboozled by that one guard, and things kind of snowballed a bit. And lots of unlucky stuff, but otherwise, you know, I don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah, I think that guard, like, you got antsy in a lot of spots. You did really, really well for the most part, but then because of that guard, I think you got a little bit antsy, and then the 4-bugger fight, I think that pushed it over.
I actually screamed out loud when I got caught by the buggers. I was like, no!
I feel you on that. I feel you. Yeah. But yeah, the start was really, really solid. Like, you know, candy skip, very nice Yakra skip. Everything felt good. And then that guard, man, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. I'm surprised I was only behind by 2.5 minutes looking at the end times here.
I was
expecting
pretty
like...
bad, dude.
Yeah, DD fell.
It was your race to win. I played pretty bad, so...
Well,
DD fell in the castle. He fell, and that almost brought you back. But then you got into an extra encounter as well, and then it was like, ah, man.
If you didn't lose the Johnny race, too, like,
you do
minute right there.
Yeah, but
I mean,
Yeah, but
I
if you
thought
guys lost the Johnny race-
personally,
Funny.
I thought you guys just set that up to make it look so that both of you lost it. Like you just like had a little agreement. Hey, we're both gonna lose Johnny, you know, and then everybody thinks we're bad. But I don't know.
No,
It is our
I
world
knew
record
something
to
was wrong around 125 left. It was just like a bad situation. I bounced the wrong way, and
Mine was the same. Like, getting pulled behind. Like the gravity is too much. I don't have a booster left. It's all over.
I tried to explain it to the chat so that not everybody thinks, okay, these guys just suck at what they do. But yeah, I mean, it happens to all of us. So I think there's no shame in that.
Yeah. Personally,
Chat
I think
asking
Johnny-
if chat asking if Johnny is the one who can advance instead.
I'd be game.
Yep.
Yeah, that put Johnny versus the winner of Red Slash and Magus.
Johnny versus Red Slash. What a name a more iconic duo.
All right, but looking a little bit ahead here. So DD, you are now in the winners bracket finals. Would you have thought you could get there before the tournament started?
To be honest, no. I was planning to have a tear down through the losers bracket, and then just kind of fade back and do some commentary. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and your plan right now is obviously to win it all, right? I mean, you got this far. Might as well beat everybody else, right?
It does mean that I pretty much need to practice nonstop for the next couple weeks, but I think I can do that.
In practice hard mode rando?
Yeah, something like that.
So you get the real understanding of the game.
Definitely. But yeah, looking at your next path lunchtime, you're now in the elimination bracket, but you know you have to wait a little bit for your opponent, so you got a little bit of time to heal the wounds. It's either going to be Kitoxia, V-Man, Kaonord, or Background Guy. They still have to play out their matches, so...
Oh, the epic rematch. Background Guy was my first match.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Kaonord is definitely nothing to scoff at there.
That's
It's one of the best runners we have, so...
Yep.
You're not in for an easy time, but I'm sure you want to go and make a comeback, come back to the winners bracket, right?
Oh, absolutely. DD for the grand rematch in the finals. Goes wild.
So you guys can both lose to Johnny in the finals?
Yeah.
Of course.
But that one will be a gentleman's agreement.
Alrighty. Yeah, it was definitely very enjoyable to watch because a lot of things happened that I didn't think would happen. But I think that's what makes a race exciting, right?
Yeah, anything can happen. Like, you know, you have to execute things pretty smoothly in order to stay on track.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, this race is a perfect example of how even the most minor of slip-ups can cost you lots of time. And as we were talking about at the beginning of the race, like it can just kind of snowball into more mistakes, which is more time loss, and it's rough. Fall over.
Yeah. Especially if it gets in your head and you try and get ahead by maybe like skipping little pixels here and there, trying to gain that little edge, right? And then of course you get caught by buggers or something.
I went for fast bird skip on the first bird skip.
Ooh, did you get
tried
it?
to. I know I failed it, and then I ended up getting in the fight.
I was actually practicing that just before the stream or before the tournament here. It's a hard one to time.
It's not good muscle memory to have if you're not going to go for it all the time.
Yeah.
But you did seem to get a really good slime fight there. I don't know if that was it looked like you were waiting on the timer there. It was hard to tell because you didn't wait that long, but you gotta.
I think the rollover was like 5 or 10 seconds after I got to before I got to the entrance to the slime room. So if I just played, 5-10 seconds better, I might have been able to manipulate 5 greens. But I'll take a random 4 green fight with awesome damage rolls.
And
even with the
2
counter,
quad cyclones is really good too.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that losing to Johnny is slime manip. Got it.
Sure. Yep.
You heard it here first, guys.
Mm-hmm. It lines those minutes up. That's how you do it.
I kind of wanted to fight that new too.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
Wow. It's crazy. I think I personally made 5 pretty serious mistakes. It's crazy to think that just one of them could have been a much, much closer race.
Yeah.
Like
I think the big difference, I don't know if you heard that, but the big difference really was the 4 buggers and the reload before Massa. That is the huge difference in this race. Like,
yeah, that's
the
another
rest
thing
was
I
back and
screamed
forth.
about.
Yeah.
I forgot the timing from when you run from the chest. I was like, okay, bird's moving, let's go. And he knocked me down the ladder. I was like, oh, what have I done?
Yeah. Yeah, that hurt me too a little bit. I mean, I understood completely because like you said, you wanted to cut the corners, but yeah. All right, I think that about does it for us here. You guys have any final words you want to get out there?
No, other than big thanks to both you guys for doing commentary and speed gaming and lunchtime for racing.
Yep. I echo that sentiment, and good luck in the rest of the winners bracket.
Oh, thank you.
There's not much left, but yeah. All right. Yeah, Silent, thank you very much for commentating with me. It was a pleasure. Amazing race to commentate. Hope you had fun. I had fun too.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm super glad you got to sneak in right before the race started to commentate with me, because this was a beautiful race to be able to commentate. And like you said, we were expecting a very different race, and we got a much better outcome than what we originally thought we were going to get. So that was really sweet. Follow both these runners. They are great watches. They're 2 of the best streams on Twitch for sure. Definitely follow both these guys. Give all Magus a follow too if for some reason you aren't already following him too. And then shout outs to everybody behind the scenes that get these races and everything going. It's awesome to be able to have this kind of stuff all the time.
Definitely. And I mean, I think we're going to have Super Metroid and Link to the Past after this, so stay tuned for that. Follow the runners, follow Silent as well. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, stay classy. Cheers.
Adios.